Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stephanie Schoenholz. I'm the Director of Industry Relations for StreetEasy. Thank you all for joining us today. You are officially on air with StreetEasy. Give a little plug there. Really excited to have you all join us today for this exciting conversation. I am coming to you from Larchmont, New York, which is just outside of New York City, County. And we're here to kick off the latest installment of In Focus with StreetEasy. Today, we're hosting an exclusive chat with Deputy Commissioner for Neighborhood Strategies at New York City Housing Preservation and Development, Ahmed Jagani. Excited to have him here. We really got a good one with his time today. Some quick kind of overviews for you, what we're going to do today, what you can expect. We here at StreetEasy have been working quite closely with New York City HPD, that are known as Housing Preservation and Development, on a number of initiatives this year. Most recently, we partnered with HPD to have them give input on a newly launched feature that helps New Yorkers learn about their rights as renters, how they can report discrimination based on source of income, like housing vouchers or child support. You can access this data-powered resource directly from rental listings on StreetEasy. And I'll put a chat and a link there for you all to see what that actually looks like. But it was really designed to arm renters with as much information about vouchers and how to use them and what their rights are, about local laws that protect them. And the feature also offers tips on finding and renting apartments that fill their criteria. So we are going to drop a link in the chat now for anyone who wants to learn a bit more about this new housing. In addition, we are going to do a deep dive of sorts with Ahmed. We have also worked on a new housing initiative. It's coming along with the city. It's the Emergency Housing Voucher Program. It's a key part of the city's recovery from COVID-19, and we've been working closely with HPD on spreading the word about that. The city has been rolling it out. Exciting additions for folks in New York City. Again, it's all back on our feet in this larger ecosystem within New York City. So we'll hear a little bit more about that. Now, without further ado, I've given you kind of a little background, a little people setting on what we're going to do today. I want to introduce Ahmed to all of you. He's our guest of honor. He is HPD's Deputy Commissioner, and he oversees the Office of Neighborhood Strategies, including the divisions of planning and development, neighborhood development and stabilization, and tenant resources. He ensures the agency's work is inclusive of community engagement, coordinated with broader public investment in infrastructure and services. And all of that is in the name of building healthy, resilient neighborhoods in all 5 boroughs in New York. So Ahmed certainly has his little additional background about Ahmed. His CV really reads like that of a dedicated and experienced urban planner and policy leader. He most recently served as the Chief of Staff to the Commissioner for the New York City Department of Buildings, that are known as DOB in our world. And that's just the first of many of his prior roles. So I'm going to throw it over to Ahmed, welcome him here. Would love to know where you're zooming in from, and frankly, if you sleep, because I did see your CV, and I don't know how you fit it all into 24 hours. So, Ahmed, welcome.
Well, hello, and Stephanie, thank you for this opportunity to come and speak and be part of a StreetEasy on the air. It's very exciting. I don't have as cool, I just have a regular coffee cup, but, definitely feeling like I'm part of something with some style. So I'm at 100 Gold Street, which is situated, sandwiched between the Civic Center and the FIDI area and the Seaport District. And, many of us in city service have been here since the beginning of the pandemic. People who were marked off as essential staff coming down and trying to keep certain parts of the city going, while as a whole, all New Yorkers played a role in making sure that we kept going in one way or another while we worked on answers to put us back on the road to recovery. I really do want to stress that I think that every New Yorker played a role, regardless if you were working from home, listening, taking care of family members, calling people to make sure that they were okay, or out there enforcing policy in hospitals, etc. Everyone plays a role, but downtown, the Civic Center is usually where, as you point out, there's a lot of work to do, not many hours in the day, so you'll find me down here a lot. And I think that this partnership with StreetEasy has been incredible for the agency and the work that we do. I don't know anyone who works in public service who wouldn't immediately recognize that we become stronger and we do our jobs better when we expand our partnerships to subject matter experts and people who are practitioners in the things that we are trying to create and make stronger for New Yorkers. This is an incredible example. Being able to speak to the people who build the housing, who manage the housing, who connect New Yorkers to the potential for new housing, maintain it so that people who are there are able to stay in comfortable, safe homes. This is how we learn. So, I'm hoping that this is going to be the first of many conversations and chances to collaborate.
And I second that. I want to, before we dive into the first set of questions that I have for you, I know that we've got a lot of interested parties on watching with us here, and they really kind of come from the various spectrums of the real estate community. We've got brokerage leadership on, we've got landlords and developers, and those who are really steeped in this world with us. And so I'm excited to have you kind of detail your work and that of HPD alongside StreetEasy, and how we can all kind of join together again to bring the city back to a level of normalcy that we had, pre-pandemic. And you can let us all know how we can continue to help in those efforts. So first question I have for you, given your very long resume that I've been reviewing and discussing with my colleagues, you focused your career on housing in New York. We all work in housing in New York. Why has that been such an important piece for you? Why is housing important to you?
I think there are a lot of different ways that I can approach that, but I think the most relevant to what we're talking about here today is the only reason why me and my family, a single mom raising 2 kids, was able to stay in New York is because we were a Section 8 family. We grew up in Sunset Park, Brooklyn. We were able to be part of an incredible community, live in a safe and happy home, because at a time in our life when we needed that help, there was a mechanism for the government to step in and assist our family. I actually grew up, in New York, and felt like I could do things. Our family was able to do things, grow and prosper, because this was here. So while I never could have imagined that I would be in a position at that time where I would be where I am now and be able to do the work I do, which is work with an incredible team of people to look at how we leverage our public assets to create new housing, or come up with creative financing models to put housing into an affordable model that works for owners and works for tenants, and going even further, running one of the largest Section 8 programs in this country. I mean, it's phenomenal to know that the thing that made me a New Yorker, made it possible for me to be a New Yorker, something I get to be a steward and protect and make it available to tens of thousands of people moving forward.
Okay, wow, it's quite a background. I mean, it's inspiring to hear that you've taken your life experiences and really kind of deployed that into your career, your work life. It's really inspiring. So you kind of just went over for us pretty high level, what HPD focuses on, what you and your team focus on. I know that there are federal funds coming to the city and the state to help with the pandemic impact on renters and property owners. At StreetEasy, we know vouchers can play an important role in housing obviously I mentioned a little earlier ago, we have this new housing feature we've launched on rentals to inform the folks that come, the consumers that come to our platform about their rights and how they utilize those vouchers. We know the process isn't always easy for renters. They don't know what they can do, how they can really advocate for themselves, how they can use these much needed funds to get themselves safe, secure housing. Can you tell us a little bit about how vouchers work in New York City, both from the renter's perspective and from those that are actually creating the housing that they're going to utilize?
There are two types of vouchers that people should know. There are project-based vouchers. Those are focused on the new development or the development projects we work on. Then there are tenant-based vouchers that are connected to the individuals that receive those vouchers. Both cases, this is designed with that 30% ratio where the government ensures that this person is able to sustain and live in that apartment. We have a process where, depending on where you get your voucher, there are two public housing authorities in New York City. It's common actually throughout the country to see multiple layers of public housing authorities. NYCHA is one. They run a larger program, far larger program than us, and we are the second. But we work together often in making sure we're meeting those shared needs of getting these vouchers into the hands of people. Once you are, either you go through NYCHA or you go through HPD, if you are eligible for a voucher, you come in through a briefing process. There are forms that are filled. We hand you the voucher once you meet all the eligibility requirements, and then you have about 120 to 180 days to go and get an apartment to lease up. We have a team that works with those voucher holders to answer questions, and it's this experience, this 50 years of work that has all actually been incredibly valuable to setting us up for this next chapter. So as you alluded to, Stephanie, as part of the American Rescue Plan passed this year, the $1.9 trillion effort to try to get everyone back on their feet and moving forward, there was the inspiration to create the Emergency Housing Voucher Program, which is a voucher program that distributed across the country for New York City specifically, gave us the opportunity to put roughly 7,800 more vouchers on the street. And in context, HPD oversees about 40,000 vouchers of various different types. So this, for us, was a huge step in the right direction to connecting resources with vulnerable populations at a time when they needed it most. The voucher program is so important that this has become a priority, a multi-agency priority. We have 10 different teams at minimum, 10 different groups who are lending support, their technical expertise, their legal expertise to make sure that we get this right. In addition, that work that's happened over the years in executing an invaluable resource and our partnership with owners, our experience with clients have contributed to a program, and I know we'll probably get into this more, that has built within it certain features we think recognizes the commitment owners are making, the importance of what they're doing, because without those units, there is no program. Without the availability of a place to put someone, the voucher doesn't have the effect it has. So this program, and again, a huge credit to the federal government and to HUD for thinking creatively, has built within it certain features we think make it more accessible and makes it something that works for both the tenant and the owner.
Interesting. So you mentioned that with the federal funding, it's going to bring an additional about 7,800 vouchers to the already 40,000 that you and your team oversee in New York City. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's all going through a unified process. So, I had mentioned that there are two different entities that do vouchers, handle vouchers, and normally you would have to go through a little bit more work. But in this case, for this program, we're doing everything we can to streamline it and take this huge allocation and put it through something that's manageable and easy to use on the front end.
That's great. I mean, that very much aligns with structure that StreetEasy and Zillow Group is trying to bring to the real estate experience as well, which is streamlining processes, making them more frictionless in the real estate experience overall to get people into homes that much faster. So that's really exciting to hear. So I assume it's safe to assume that the folks on this line who are real estate stakeholders, whether they are landlords, management companies, broker owners, agents, they're going to see an increase of housing voucher use in the city over the next couple of months. That's pretty accurate?
Yep, that is accurate. We will definitely see an increase of people who will have vouchers. In addition, we are increasing our efforts to make direct connections with landlords, both small and large. So not only will you be seeing this activity, but you'll also be seeing more activity from New York City, the government, to reach out and let you know that this is happening, that we'd like to partner with you, to explain to you the program so that you don't have to go out and find this information yourself. And that's all built into the enhanced service that we hope to provide through this version of the program.
Okay, great for everybody on the line to hear that. I want to, if we can for a minute, dive into the effort that at least the voucher program on StreetEasy is trying to do, which is very much trying to educate the renters about their rights and being able to report when discrimination is actually happening. So we know that renters, they can't legally be discriminated against based on their source of income. And that includes using a voucher. What exactly does that mean if you could put that into your own words, what does that mean for the folks online and people actually using the voucher?
Absolutely. So, I think at the baseline thing to remember is that discrimination based on the source of income is just an illegal practice, and refusing to rent based on that is something that's codified in law as not only inappropriate, but something that the city has taken great pains and is putting resources into making sure that owners are aware that's illegal and that we're taking action when that happens. And there are a lot of different kinds of subsidies people come across. So whether it's Section 8 or Social Security, income, SSI, a lot of people refer to it, HACA funds, which are funds that are used for people who are with HIV, who have suffered from HIV and AIDS and getting support. There are city DSS, GI Bill housing allowances. There are a number of different subsidies, but the bottom line is, regardless of where the source of income is, every New Yorker has a right to use that legal tenure to rent a home. And so that's something that we make available on our website. We go out and we talk to owners and hold events to ensure that message is getting through.
Okay, good to know. I know that the audience, again, that StreetEasy caters to the consumers that come to our site, which is millions of consumers every month. Of course, we work in close partnership with the other key entities in this real estate space, be that brokers, landlords, agents. What can brokers and leasing teams, are they going to be surprised by anything about the emergency housing voucher program? Are there any call outs that we can really kind of highlight for them on this call today? Are there incentives to working with folks with housing vouchers? Obviously, there is the legal ramifications. It is illegal to say, no, you can't work with somebody, but are there any, incentives for them to actually reach out and support this community?
Absolutely. So, let me first start with what I mentioned earlier, which is that we have learned a great deal from our experience with housing vouchers, and especially in this program, which if you go through the rules and regulations, you'll see that it is a program that has been built to move fast. There is urgency in this program. So with urgency, we need to find a way to put people in a place to be able to work with us quickly. And there are some interesting incentives that we have that we don't normally have for other housing vouchers. Overall across the board, when it comes to housing vouchers, we're talking about a reliable, predictable set of payments, especially when you're dealing with performas and M&Os where, depending on the situation, if you want to limit your vacancy or your vacancy rate, this is a great way of making sure that your apartments are full with a reliable source of income. On the broker side, for owner brokers, the program does have incentives of 15% for successful placements, which is money that's been put aside to do that. Furthermore, we're looking at different ways that we can increase incentives for tenant-facing brokers as well. We know that there's a lot of interest, and it's something we'll continue to look into. For property owners, we're talking beyond the reliable subsidy payments. We have areas in our program that are marked off as exception payment standards. So these are areas that are, often communities with a lot of amenities, or they often command higher prices. And we haven't talked a lot about this on this call, but connected to the source of income conversation is a more broader discussion in the city about making sure that we are creating an environment where fair housing laws and fair housing policies, where people, regardless of your background, have access to live in the neighborhoods in which they choose to and want to live in. Creating that fairness in housing is important to us, and again, I'll use the term now, but on our website, it'll go into more detail, and the layman's version is it just pays more than the normal payment standard, and those are certain zip codes, which you can find the locations of that on an EPS map that we have specially created for the payment for our housing voucher website. And then we also have a website just for the EHV program, dedicated to owners, to give them straightforward, direct information about what this program is and what the benefits are for you. Some other things I want to make sure that I hit: there's a 1 month security voucher or 1 month owner payment in lieu of deposit. And then we also have a specialized support team for the lease up process. We've dramatically expanded hiring and brought in local neighborhood support to work with voucher holders to make sure that you have a partner in parts of the process that, for those who are experienced with the voucher program, have added some more work on your end. So whether it's working with the tenants to make sure that they have the paper we need to qualify, working with the owners to answer questions through the process, because there's a landlord package that needs to be created. We now put people in place to answer those questions and be available when you need them to be available. And then there was one, just going back to the discrimination point, it is something I think that people often say that they want to be part of pushing back against a process that is unfair. They don't know what to do. I just want to remind people that the New York Commission on Human Rights is often the first stop to go for questions. And you may be in a conversation where a landlord or an agent refuses to accept a voucher. They say that they don't accept the type of voucher, or there's a wait list for vouchers, and that you have to go on that, or they add extra features or requirements that aren't normally required of renters. These are things to pick up on. And if you have questions about whether this falls within the bucket of source of income discrimination, without repercussion, etc., you can go to the New York Commission on Human Rights to ask those questions to understand what the situation is, and then figure out what the next steps are.
Okay. Can you just repeat for those on the line, if an agent or a broker does encounter, hopefully this does not happen, but anything's possible. If they do encounter an owner who says, no, we don't accept vouchers, again, what is kind of the typical protocol that you would recommend they do to report that, or to make sure that they're trying to kind of right this wrong, if you will?
Sure. So there's a number of different ways you can do. You can just call 311 and ask for the Human Rights Commission to report a case of source of income discrimination. Beyond that, there are dedicated lines, and this is a topic that's tackled by a number of different agencies. So the New York Department of Social Services has a fair housing litigation line. That's S as in Sam, O as in opera, I as in igloo, at dss.nyc.gov. You can call the New York State Division of Human Rights. That's info at D as in dog, H as in Harry, R as in Robert, .ny.gov. And also the State Attorney General has a Civil Rights Bureau that also handles that. But if you forget all of that, because I think I've already forgotten it after saying it, you can just simply call 301 and they will guide you where you need to go.
Okay, great. And for everybody who's on the call, we're throwing things into the Slack, into the Zoom channel for you to take a look at. So there's a number of links there for the payment standard lookup, as well as the emergency housing voucher owner resources page. So we will, and we're happy to follow up afterwards to make sure that you're all kind of armed with the best information that's out there. So if there were, let's say, the top 3 things you would recommend for the leaders on this line, on this call, to tell their teams about the emergency voucher program, what would those, if you could pick 3, I know there's so many, but if there's 3 items you want them to communicate to those teams, what would they be?
I think I would say for people who have worked with us in the past and they've had vouchers in the past, I think I would strongly encourage you to come work with this program. You'll see that we've learned a lot from our normal program, and we're introducing some new aspects, recognizing the importance of the owner's role in making this incredible program happen. So the additional benefits is something that we want to see its impact, and having your feedback and thinking about how it should be pushed and incorporated in the larger program is going to be a key takeaway at the end. So your voice is key on that. For those who have not worked with us before, you already provide an incredible resource and asset to your neighborhoods. You are providing housing, which is essential to any combination of things that makes a complete and holistic neighborhood. This is a step forward where you can increase that impact you make by making available units and creating opportunity for a home for a person who may have been through incredible ordeal or not in a place where they can be a contributing New Yorker like yourself. This is an excellent way for you to complete and stabilize them, but also grow and expand your neighborhood. And that has multiplier effects on the ground. More people in homes impacts positively the small businesses in the area. It introduces more people in the community who can advocate for more resources for that community. Being that provider is the first step in playing a huge role in strengthening our neighborhoods. And I think the third thing I would say is that as New York City recovers, we're all going to have to figure out what exactly should New York City look like in the future. And for me, and how I've grown up and why I'm doing housing, it's because I think it's important that in addition to all else that's important to us, we find ways to give back, and we find ways to contribute to what makes the city great, which is our ingenuity, our creativity, and our ability to bounce back like never before. This program, this part of the American Rescue Plan, is a great starter to it. But it's only going to be possible if other people buy into that message and play a role. And I hope that that's a message that continues to get out there about why connecting with us, being part of the Emergency Housing Voucher Program, is going to be key to that overall success.
Okay, so there's your top 3 things, everybody, to focus on after this call. I would like to spend the next few minutes talking about the length of the voucher program, like how long is this emergency voucher program going to be? Is it in the next couple of quarters? I know it's coming out imminently. Is it just while the city is considered to be in a pandemic, or is there going to be an extension on that? Maybe you can give us some insight into the length there.
Sure. So the program is live right now. We are on the street. Our colleagues in the mayor's office of public engagement are working to reach out to landlords. Agencies are moving people through the application process. People are out in the neighborhood viewing apartments. The voucher itself, the temporary nature of it, it's a 10-year program. So these vouchers are back for 10 years, and then that is obviously still in line with the existing voucher programs that we have from both agencies. So this is additive. It has a long run. It'll have that support for that long run, and we hope to be building up on the resources and continuing it into the future, not shrinking at any point. So the beefed up owner services, the client services, all that work, we hope will just continue to grow over time. But the vouchers themselves have a 10-year life. We, as a city, and the program is set up to work as hard as we can to get these vouchers out by the end of next year. So if you receive calls from us often or see us trying to reach out to you to make sure that we are not leaving any stone unturned to find an apartment, it's because we do have this urgency. Beside the urgency that there's a desperate need for housing, we do have to try to get as many of these vouchers out by the end of next year.
Okay. I would like, if I could, I know that you detailed how property owners can get started. Obviously, we've thrown a few things in the chat for people to take a look at afterwards. Is the process complicated to get involved with for the vouchers? Are property owners given like a point person that is going to be there to help educate them and their teams? Are there additional trainings that their teams can go through again to better educate themselves about how to help New Yorkers who are using these different emergency programs? What can we tell folks that are going to think about using these programs, how they get started and how they run through it?
I appreciate the question. So we try to package everything together in a landlord package with details on how to fill it out and have that be complete. The tenant themselves has their own package. On the tenant side, we've created a new wraparound set of services, housing navigators, who will help them walk through the process. Many of these groups are people who have worked with us for a long time as housing ambassadors in our larger affordable housing program, where we're putting tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers in units over the course of our affordable housing work. So these are experienced people who are knowledgeable in working different parts of the system, and they'll help make it streamlined for the tenants, which is one part of the process. The other piece, which is the owner piece, in addition to trying to reduce the complexity of the package, we have our colleagues over at PEU who are working with outreach to tenants. We are trying to come up with a strategy that really focuses on the needs of large tenants. We are trying to launch a strategy that works on the needs of small owners, because we know that those worlds are different as well. In addition, here at HPD, and NYCHA has a similar arrangement, we do have teams just based on owner services who are there to answer questions, and all that information will be available on the EHV site as well. And as we learn from the program what the concerns are, what the needs are, we will continue to grow out those services. Because of the urgency I mentioned earlier, we know that we're going to have to add new things in order to make this work and respond faster. So we're holding ourselves accountable to that as well.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. What do you think the most important thing for us here for brokerages to know about working with housing vouchers? So specifically for the broker owners and agents on the line, what's kind of the most important thing that they can learn about working with vouchers and the voucher holders?
I think one of the things that just as a reminder to take away is to contact us frequently and early. I think a lot of times there's conversations that get stuck because there isn't enough communication between us and the owners. So from our end, we're learning how to be more proactive and do outreach when we're seeing that there hasn't been movement fast enough. And then we find that a lot of owners, I think partly just trying to be responsible partners in the process, are not coming to us quickly enough with their concerns and questions. So I think increasing that communication is important. On our end, we are introducing new tracking systems to see how vouchers are moving through the process. This way we can raise flags early if we're not seeing something happen. This way we can reach out and ask if there was a problem with a certain paperwork requirement, or if we're seeing the issue happening on the tenant side and the owner is moving forward. And that's where that's a problem. The other thing that I didn't mention earlier is, there's a inspection process that is part of it. One of the steps is we go out to make sure that the unit is safe and meets the standards. And we, for this program, have made it possible for it to be a self-certification program for HPD apartments, and that gives us time to focus on the paperwork, to get the tenant in there, and then the owner can move forward with getting the tenant inside and finishing the paperwork. The key here is that there can't be any, life-threatening conditions, but if there's small things, we can get quickly to the part where we're renting up the unit in a safe place, getting that owner signed up, and getting that income flowing into that building.
Okay, wonderful. Great information for everybody here. I think that we've run through so much information. You have been fantastic. Really appreciate your time in bringing clarity to current state of the voucher program, the emergency voucher program that is operating in New York City right now. The folks on the line, brokers, owners, agents, landlords, developers, management companies, have learned a lot about how they can play the role in bringing the city back to a post-COVID normalcy. And again, we will all play our part in that. That's all we've got for today, folks. Again, a huge thank you to Amit Tigani for joining us. Thank you to all the attendees. I hope you found this In Focus impactful and informative. If you have any follow-up questions, by all means, reach out to me about StreetEasy's voucher feature or work with HPD in general, and we will get that over to you immediately so that you can inform your staff and your agents, and everybody can get back to doing their part and bringing us into 2022, I hope, with some bells and whistles. So, Amit, thank you so much for your time. And,
thank you. Thank you for this opportunity.
Goodbye to everybody on the line.
Thank you again for this opportunity. Thank you guys for listening in, and have a great rest of your week.
Take care, everyone.